right, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Geek Vibes Live interview. I'm your host, Tia, and I am speaking with pretty much the all-around person for the I think it said actress, co-writer, director, and all this really exciting stuff for this vampire rom-com called Bite Me that is coming out on digital soon. So Naomi McDougall Jones, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. And I should say I didn't direct the film. I acted and wrote it and produced it, but Meredith Edwards directed it.
Awesome. I mean, listen, you wore pretty much all the hats, but we do appreciate Meredith. So this is really cool. So according to the email I got, this movie, Bite Me, has really been making its rounds, and it's finally coming to digital in February. So, I mean, how does that feel, first of all? Because I believe it said something about it was originally out in like 2019. So does it feel really good to have it finally out on digital in 2022?
It's so exciting. And so in 2019, we did this thing that we called the Joyful Vampire Tour of America. So we moved into an RV for 3 months and we drove 13,001 miles around the country and we did 51 screenings in 40 cities in 90 days.
That's crazy.
It was bananas and the most fun I've ever had in my life. So we invited the audience to come in costume. We wore costumes. We did joyful vampire balls after every screening. It was mad. There's a documentary series actually about that tour on YouTube.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw that on in the article and I thought that was so cool. So it sounds like you just had a tremendous amount of fun with this.
oh my God, it was amazing. And then we had always intended that it would have an international digital release after that, but then we sort of got that teed up and fell right into COVID. And the world went insane and like buyers stopped buying and it was bananas. So uh COVID pause and now we're getting to do our digital release, which is so exciting.
It is really exciting. And it's like I feel as if vampires are never not in. We love
Totally.
vampires, whether it's in a horror genre or more of a, rom-com like Bite Me is. So for those who are watching, and maybe this is the first time they've heard of Bite Me, can you tell everyone like what the movie's about and what your role in it is?
Yeah. So Bite Me is a subversive romantic comedy about a real life vampire and the IRS agent who audits her.
That's amazing.
Um, it is about I say it's a love song to the weirdos. I have was a very weird kid and have always felt like weirder than other people. and so yeah, it's and part of what led to me writing this movie is I had this really devastating experience when I was about 13 years old watching The Princess Diaries in a movie theater. And I just remember seeing Anne Hathaway in that movie, who, at the beginning, they really work hard to try to make her look awkward at the beginning. Like they give her frizzy hair and glasses, but she still looks like Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
And
I
I just remember going like, oh my God, if she's weird, I am like not even on the charts.
I was actually speaking, not to cut in, but I was actually
No.
speaking about that today, where like with Not Another Teen Movie, where they really tried hard to make the lead look weird, and she's still gorgeous. She just was wearing glasses and had a ponytail. So I mean,
Right.
that's always like the hilarious thing about these type of movies.
Totally. And then of course the moral of that movie is that then when she gets a makeover, then the guy notices her winning personality, like so I really wanted to make a movie where the girl was weird and found love and didn't have to give up who she is.
That's awesome. That's really amazing. And so, did you feel by making a movie where, say, there's like vampires involved, that maybe it would be because with certain messages, you almost have to make it like a little more easily digestible for people. So, was that kind of like a way to do that?
Yeah, For sure. And the vampires in the film aren't supernatural. They're in real life there is a global community of people who identify as vampires.
Right.
And they don't believe they're supernatural, but they believe that they need to drink blood to stay healthy. Um, you may
So,
be aware of this community.
well, I was gonna, yes, yes.
Yeah.
um,
Um,
how long did it take for you guys to film this movie when you guys filmed it?
so we shot it in 21 days.
Okay.
But the whole thing took 4 years to make because of course the production is the very shortest part of the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, so you're saying like 4 years, so we're talking back at what? Oh God, I can't even do math right now. Like 2015 practically.
Yeah, that we started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was like when I wrote the first draft of the script, so that was very early days. But then it took us about 3 years to raise the money,
Right.
and to get the script ready, raise the money, get the cast. Then we shot it in 21 days, and then post production took about a year.
That's really like, how does that feel as someone, as like a creator? Again, I know I asked like how it feels to finally see it on digital in 2022, but just is that, say, the normal in when it comes to making movies? Like, would you say that that's how others probably experience getting their projects out?
I would say we're probably around the average. Like if you make a smaller budget movie, it can sometimes go faster.
Mhm.
And if you make a bigger budget movie, it can take like 10 and 20 years. Like famously, the Dallas Buyers Club took 20 years to get made.
Right.
So we're probably the average, but yeah, I mean, filmmaking is a really long process. And then to finally, I mean, to get to set is just like I mean, it's like being a wizard if you've written it because it's you you like these characters that you've been living within your head and have written on the page. Like suddenly there are full-grown adults dressing up and playing pretend with you and becoming these characters, and people are running around building sets that you imagined in your head. And I mean, it's just like unbelievable. And then to get to watch people watching it and have people laugh at your jokes, and it's beyond. It's why you keep doing it even though it's so hard. It takes so long.
Has this always been, acting, writing, like has this always been something that you have been interested in doing?
Yeah, so I wanted to be an actress from the time I was like 4. Um, but I came to writing and filmmaking later because I don't know, I think when little girls discover they're storytellers, people are like, great, you should be an actress.
Right.
Whereas I think with little boys, they're like, well, would you like to be a writer or a director or a producer or actor? So, so I went to acting school and got out, and the filmmaking really came out of being frustrated by the roles available for women, which were horrible and not that interesting.
I mean, seriously, I think I read something in the last few years saying that roles are kind of, I guess, getting maybe a little, I'm not in the acting field, but maybe a little better for women. But I mean, if you look at, say, how film was for women, even up to maybe 5 years ago, the roles weren't beefy, for lack of better words.
No, no, and very naked and very like supportive of the male characters.
So, I mean, with this in mind, are there other projects that you have been working on that you are, hoping to kind of shed better light on, women characters?
Yeah, so I mean, I strive to do that with every film to show women of female characters that we've never seen before. So my first film, Imagine I'm Beautiful, came out in 2014 and is on Amazon if anyone would like to check it out. And it's about a woman with borderline personality disorder who um, moves to New York and invents a whole new fake life for herself, and then it all comes tumbling down because none of it's true. And then of course this one, and the lead character who I play is like everything ever wanted to see a female character in a movie. She's badass. She doesn't give a shit. She's vulnerable. She's complicated. I loved playing her so much. and then my next film, Hammond Castle, which we're shooting in March of 2023, is about it's a magical realism piece about a 7-month pregnant woman who gets locked overnight in a castle full of famous ghosts.
Oh wow, that's going to be a fun one, right? I love that you have this like creativity and use kind of like vampires, ghosts, and everything to really kind of weave like a story. But I do want to ask, like, so is there, say, a potential for a Bite Me too?
It's funny. So many people have asked us that. In fact, so many people asked us that Christian Coulson and I. So Christian plays is my love interest, and he plays the IRS agent. Um, we People kept asking like, "What's the sequel? What's the sequel?" And we're like, "We don't know." Um, but we actually ended up co-writing a pilot for a TV series of Bite Me, which would kind of start with the same material from the film, but then also move forward in time. So that's also getting shopped around, which it was really fun to get. I think it's just that people love these characters so much that the question comes from like, can we hang out with them more? Like, we would also like to hang out with them more. So we'll see. That would be really exciting.
That is really exciting. I was going to ask, like, so since you're like developing this TV series, how that's going. So I hope that gets picked up because that would be a lot of fun. And what was really interesting when I got the email, to potentially speak with you and everything, you're also a writer, as you said, but you have a book called The Wrong Kind of Women Inside Our Revolution to Dismantle the Gods of Hollywood. So even just talking to you, I can tell that you have this passion to really help the, female experience in movies and TV shows. So, I mean, that's really cool. Can you tell everyone about this book? I mean, I know the title kind of says already, but I'd love to talk
Yeah.
about that more with you.
Yeah. Um, so I got to write this book because I did a TED talk called The Wrong Kind. The TED talk is called What It's Like to Be a Woman in Hollywood.
Right.
And it went viral in the middle of the Me Too movement. And so the book builds on that talk and basically looks at the fact that 95% of all of the films that we've ever seen
Mm-hmm.
um, in mainstream America were directed by white men,
Right.
which is staggering. And given that white men are 30% of the actual population, is like a wildly skewed vision of the world being reflected back to us. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's not that their perspective isn't valid. It's just that it's one perspective out of a great many different perspectives. And so to me, not only is that important for any women trying to work in the industry, because a lot of women have said after reading my book, oh, I thought it was just me. Like, I thought I was the problem. I thought I wasn't good enough. I wasn't talented enough. But now I understand the structures that are actually preventing women at every stop from progressing. But it's also really important for people who watch movies, because the movies we watch and the stories we consume literally shape our brain chemistry. I mean, there's science to back this up, that the stories we watch shape our hobbies, our career choices, our marital status, how we think of ourselves and our own self-worth, how we view people who are different than us. I mean, it's literally the framework that shapes society. And so the fact that almost all of our stories are still being told through the white male gaze means that we're actually seeing ourselves through their eyes.
Right.
Um, and that is creating a lot of problems. It has created and continues to perpetuate a lot of problems in society. And I really believe that until we solve that problem, that whatever social progress we're trying to make will always be pulled back by this industry and these narratives that are more regressive actually than society is.
I remember being in film class in college, and one of the most telling situations was our teacher put up a bunch of movies on the screen. One, a few obviously being like teeny bopper sort of movies and everything, and one was The Hurt Locker. And our teacher goes, "Which movie here do you think was directed by a woman?" And they all picked, the obvious choices, and it's like, well, would you be surprised that The Hurt Locker was actually directed by a woman? So it certainly has definitely shaped our perception. So it's nice when you get to have actresses and just women with immense talent in Hollywood really kind of trying to derive us in a different direction.
I love your teacher. And I kind
Yeah.
of
It was kind of because I at that point had never watched The Hurt Locker, and
yeah,
then after that, then I was like, oh well, now I want to watch this.
yeah.
So
Well, isn't it amazing? I think The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, it's like when you take genres that are considered so male and then you see a woman direct it and you suddenly go like, oh, that's what it's like. Or I felt that way watching The Babadook. I don't know
okay,
if you saw that.
I
It's a
don't
horror
know.
film
Uh-huh.
by a female director, and watching it I was like, that's what a horror film can be from a woman's perspective.
Right. I gotta check that out. I've actually not heard it before, but I think it's really interesting when we can see women get into categories that you probably thought that they wouldn't even fit into.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that. So I mean, what are you working on another book? I mean, I can imagine that someone like you has a lot to, put out there.
Yeah. So I'm actually working on two books simultaneously. So the first one is a little bit different. It's a I had the opportunity to live in Ernest Hemingway's final home for 3 months recently as a writer's residency. Um, and it was the home where he killed himself, and ended up having this really interesting sort of Ernest Hemingway journey in that house. And Ernest Hemingway as a representation of like the old dead white guys. And so that book it's a little bit more of a memoir, but sort of like wrestling with this question of what does it mean to be a female artist right now? What does it mean to be a white female artist? And like how do we move forward from this point? Like how do we deprogram ourselves enough to be able to actually move forward into new territory? Um, while also learning what we can from the past. Um,
Right.
and then the other book I'm calling Fast Food Media, and it's about how essentially five corporations are now deciding all of the content that we all watch because of streaming services and mass consolidation, and what impact that, and their only goal is profit. And so the content they're putting out is what is the content that is like chemically formulated to prevent us from ever turning off Netflix. But I would argue is not really doing the thing that stories need to do in a society. Um, so
So that's what you're working on currently.
yeah.
What would you say that is something that you would have accepted in your, like, say, younger days of being in the industry that you just refuse to accept now?
So much. So much. I mean, I entered the industry as an actress and as a young actress, and I experienced a wide range of things that one would expect to experience in that. Um,
I can only
I
imagine.
I remember, I mean, I got asked to take my clothes off a lot and a lot more than was appropriate, which I didn't do a lot of the time and did other times. I remember on one student film I was doing, um, it was like a film about a serial killer. I played a lot of serial killer victims, as I think a lot of women do. And so it was this woman gets killed in the shower,
Okay.
and but we'd like negotiated ahead of time what the nudity was and wasn't going to be. Like it was supposed to just be my back, and I was going to wear like a bra to make sure that they weren't, so that I could control that they weren't going to shoot something they had said they wouldn't shoot.
Right.
And so I had that, and then the director started saying, "Oh well, we can actually see the strap, so we're going to need you to take that. We still won't shoot it. We still won't shoot it.
Mm.
But could you?" And I somewhat savvily got the electrician to give me electrician's tape, and I put it over my nipples with neon, so that at least
You can
I knew they
control
couldn't
that.
use that footage. But I think today I would have just walked off that set.
Right. I think I don't know what interview it was, but I believe Don't quote me on this, but I believe Emilia Clarke, because in Game of Thrones she was topless quite often, especially in those earlier seasons. I think there was an interview maybe a couple of years ago where she said she's just not going to do that anymore in other projects. And it really, I mean, what value does any of that add to these stories,
I mean, yeah, and I think it can. Like, I believe in that there are moments where nudity does elevate a story, but
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the time it's used just gratuitously for the pleasure of its male viewers. So, like, for
Yes.
instance, I have been varying degrees of naked in my own films,
Mm-hmm.
but that feels so different because I know I'm only going to do it if it's actually serving the story. And I know that I'm going to be at a set where I have the power to say, I'm not comfortable with that, or, to say I need that person to leave the room right now or whatever. So I do think that there can be value. It's just that it's so overused as a cheap. I mean, like, speaking of Game of Thrones or just HBO, and like there's a joke in the industry that HBO has a 3-minute boob rule that, like, whatever's happening in the story, every 3 minutes somebody's got to take their boobs out. Um, and like,
I
we
wouldn't
don't need
doubt
to
that,
watch
honestly. Like, I watched the first two seasons of Westworld, and it was just I can't imagine being an actress on set for that, because there's just moments where it's like, just stand there naked, and we're not even doing anything, you're just staying there while everyone else is having like a normal conversation.
Totally. I mean, that happens so often in Game of Thrones that, like, somebody would be having sex with a woman whose boobs are like bouncing in the camera and they're talking about something completely else. It's not even.
It's like, for what reason? It's like, come on, guys, the story is good enough that you don't need this, like, thing
Oh,
to capture your
it's so
eye.
upsetting. Yeah.
So I can imagine being a writer, and you're creating your own content, that you would really, just kind of take more charge of things that you wouldn't have had charge previously. So
Yep.
I mean, so we kind of went over like what you're working on now and everything. I want to kind of just reiterate. So for Bite Me, I believe it's February 6th is when it's coming out on digital, is what I read.
February 8th.
February 8th. Okay. So everyone who is watching and listening, February 8th, if you could
And,
give like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
and it is available for pre order now. So if you're listening to this before February 8th, pre orders are very important to us. So pre order it before February 8th.
I was going to ask, so if you can give like one reason for everyone, I know you've already sold it, but if you give one reason why people should pre-order Bite Me, what would it be?
Support independent female perspectives with your dollars. So you can spend $13 and help elevate a woman's perspective. And basically we're battling algorithms. I mean, all of life seems to be battling algorithms to reach other humans right now, but certainly, like on iTunes and these platforms, it's all about the algorithms. So if we get 400 pre-orders by February 8th, the algorithm will pick us up and bring us to a wider audience. So please pre-order.
That's awesome. I really encourage everyone to do that. Naomi, where can everyone find you so they can follow you, your endeavors, and help support you?
Thank you. So my website, naomimcdougalljones.com, it'll offer you to sign up for my newsletter, which is the best way to stay in touch. But I'm also on all the social platforms, so you can find me there too.
All the socials. Where would we be without social media? No, seriously, I mean that sincerely,
Oh,
because
I agree.
yeah.
I would not have had the career I'm having.
So that's awesome. Naomi, it's been so amazing speaking with you. I can't wait for everyone to check out Bite Me and just continue following your career. And hopefully the series will get picked up somewhere. I have my fingers crossed.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I really have loved the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good one, everyone.